All right, welcome back to the Zay Builds podcast. Today's episode is a special one because I'm sitting down with a guy who actually planted the seed for this whole thing, Sean Hardwick. Sean runs Hardwick Projects here in Canberra. And if you know his work, you know he's not chasing the spotlight.
Wow.
He just quietly delivers solid, thoughtful, high-quality builds. He leads by example, holds himself to the highest standards, and generally gives a shit about doing things properly. We first met at the construction rally last year, and we've stayed in touch ever since. Every time we catch up, I walk away clearer, more grounded, and more fired up. So I knew we had to hit record on an episode, and I'm very, very excited to have him in here. In this episode, we talk about business, leadership, juggling a new baby, and how to run a tight site and a good life. We also dig into values, discipline, and what we both reckon needs to change in the industry moving forward. Proper chat with the top bloke. Let's get into it. Sean Hardwick.
Mate, first of all, I didn't know that I planted the seed.
You did, mate. You did, 100%.
Yeah, that's an honour in itself, mate. So yeah, nah.
It never even really crossed my mind, to be honest. And then you were like, nah, you're good at this. Get in and do it, And I was like, maybe.
But I mean, look, podcasts, I've only been on one. I mean, we were on the rally, the construction rally, whether that was a podcast or not, that was just a good light chat. But
yeah.
But look, they're just a great source of way to get information out there. Really, educate at the moment is just everybody wants to absorb and learn and hopefully, and podcasts are just a great way to do that. So
100%, man,
for ourselves and clients included. For them to be able to understand who you are.
Definitely.
So
keep that mic close to you.
Sorry, mate.
Big dog.
Mate,
it's a new setup. We're learning, and we're loving it. We're loving it.
Worth more than my education by the look of it, mate. So yeah.
I think the good thing about it is we can just have discussions and just hash it out.
Of course, that's what they are. They're just open discussions, and it's just a great way for people to be able to listen and absorb information. Education. That's just what we are pushing at the moment, and that's what we need in this construction industry.
100%.
It's ever evolving. So
I want to hear your story, Sean. Where did you start out?
Mate,
in the building game. You're a carpenter, I know that.
Yeah, carpenter by trade. Very passionate carpenter, very biased carpenter. I'd try and push as much carpentry and forms of that side of building into our projects as much as possible. Just not so much the raw ingredients of working with hardwoods and things like that, which I'm very passionate in, but also more just extending, that to the team, having that passion in carpentry is just a great platform for team and people that are, wanting to learn the art of it. So
definitely. You've got a couple of apprentices.
Yep. Yeah. No, we got 3, and we're about to have 4. So we're taking on a new apprentice. Another female. So she's going to be on with us the next couple of weeks. She's a ASBA, but yeah, we've got 3 apprentices, 2 4th years and a first year. So
that's exciting, mate.
Going well, mate. Yeah. Very excited because we are off to Melbourne tomorrow. We got the HIA Nationals.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, but Benny Kozak, our young 4th year, our superstar, he took out Canberra 2024, which was a invitation to the Nationals. So he's competing, is one word to put, but yeah, no, he's got an invitation there to the Nationals in Melbourne this weekend, and yeah,
he's got a good teacher. By the sounds of things,
send it, mate. Yeah, well, look, it all comes pretty naturally, mate. When I started out, I never thought that I'd be, in this position of having so many under my wing, you could say. But it's all about fostering that good team. And then, evolution goes. We've got our 4th years now. I think putting Amber in the spotlight, our 4th year carpenter, she's now going to be looking after the next first year, with another female apprentice, which is important.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate. So
well, I want to talk about that.
Yep.
Apprentices are very important. I want to go to your apprenticeship.
Yeah.
If we can.
Let's not.
Well, what was your...
Let's
go back there. What was your first proper job or defining moment and defining moment on site? And how carpenters, we get that. Look, I don't know, when you come to the end of your apprenticeship, or maybe you've just finished your apprenticeship, there's that light bulb moment. You're like, I can do everything. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I had an alternate you could say, apprenticeship. So I was taught, but I didn't listen very well. I wasn't a very good listener. And
Strong-minded, Sean.
you could say strong-minded. I'm not really sure. My head was just elsewhere, growing up. Raised on the coast and just had that coasty attitude. I can't really explain it, but didn't taste very much of a liking to school either. Left school very early, and then jumped into trade industry. Like my father leaned towards a trade. He was the catalyst. Maybe not the catalyst, but what would you say? He encouraged me to get into a trade. I think he saw the values.
Sorry.
Bless you, mate.
Thank you.
He saw the values in a trade, in construction, and yeah. So look, I actually started out plumbing, believe it or not.
Right.
Second year plumber, mate, and didn't do too well at that. Look, it's not that I didn't do too well.
Go for it. No, I'm good. Sorry. What? Just not into it? Didn't see the passion there?
Well, it was actually driven. So yeah, my father actually, he had set this scene. He was always, he wanted the best for us all. Look, of course, it's your parents.
Yeah.
And he was always, just striving to better me in particular because he knew that I struggled. And yeah, he there was this opportunity. A friend of his owned a bathroom business, like a bathroom renovation company, just a small bathroom renovation company, and that entailed the whole process, bar electrical. So we were doing, from groundworks and demolition to carpentry, all the plumbing, tiling, waterproofing, painting, everything in between. Which I did take a lot from that, but it just meant pursuing a trade in plumbing because I needed that certification to sign off, get those permits, etc. So that's what I started doing. But I didn't take much interest, and all I wanted to do was carpentry. And maybe back to what you were saying, being a bit stubborn or whatnot. But I decided to leave, to leave that opportunity, and I still actually kick myself. Not so much now because I'm in a better position, but I did kick myself later on when I started expanding out and just think if I'd held on to that would have been a great opportunity, to expand from there. But
hindsight's 2020, mate. Look where you are now.
Well, true. Look, I mean that's exactly right.
But why were you attracted to the carpentry side of it? Just didn't have to deal with pipes.
Look, to be honest, I think I just liked, the outdoors. Like I said, I was a coastie. I just want to have my shirt off and a nail bag on, mate.
That's the dream, isn't it?
That is the dream when you're 16 years old.
Yeah.
But it was, I was just drawn to carpentry. I can't exactly. There's no carpenters in my family. Going back there was none. But yeah. So I continued on. I ended up getting an apprenticeship with a fellow. But once again, I found it hard to listen, and it wasn't until I left. It's a long story actually how I landed here, but
you sort of got out of your own way, and then
so I got out of my own way. I landed here. That's another long story. I won't go into it, but I landed here, started fending for myself basically. I had the basics down pat. I had a relatively small, toolkit that got me by. But I started doing things for myself. And that's when, as soon as I had that belief and I did something, from a deck frame or whatever it was, I remember doing my first bathroom renovation, and I was able to tile. And I remember tiling and just going, fuck, I did learn something from Warren. His name was Warren.
Yeah.
That fella. And I remember having that spark, and it's like,
that was the moment, was it?
I might be able to do, I think I can do this, And that was the moment, yeah. And it just grew from there, and then it went to, employing, having my first apprentice, which was just a fucking leap, mate. I thought, wow, okay, this is growth, and then I just found that I really passionately enjoyed, fostering him and teaching him, and he couldn't swing a hammer, when we first started. So very green, and that employer, he only left us only a couple of years ago. He was with us for almost 10 years.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, he's now a CIT teacher. So he's
fantastic.
He's teaching our apprentices. Yeah.
So he's had a really
There's something.
mate. That's a sheet there.
There's something in the genes at Hardwick's because another a former apprentice as well. He's now in Melbourne. He moved to Melbourne, and he's teaching carpentry at CIT.
So you must be doing something right.
Yeah, look, I've got to put a contract in place with the rest of them because they can't keep on poaching my guys, you know. But yeah, so I think that's, you know, to answer your question, you know, yeah, I think it was when I started, you know, doing things for myself. It wasn't so much, working, you know, with, you know, my boss, or with my mentor, whatever you call.
It's always crazy that first job that you take on. Like, these people give you money to go and do something.
Yeah.
You've never done that before. You're driving home going, I've got to think of this, think of that, got to, you know, remember to organise this, you know, I've got to tell them that.
And what makes it even worse, I mean, whether it's worse or not, I mean, it's a story, right? It's all a journey, but I didn't get my apprenticeship. So I didn't actually get signed off until later. So I was actually out there doing carpentry work, you know, without a certificate, with a Cert 3.
The full ticket,
and then I didn't have a driver's. Yeah, this is getting deep. I didn't have a driver's license either. I was a fucking dud, mate. But yeah, I didn't have a driver's license, and I just had some light bulb moments, you know, like carpentry certificate was one of those things. And I can remember my family being so proud, you know, when I got my certificate. They were more proud when I got a fucking car license. But yeah, look, it's just all hitting those milestones. But yeah, evolution, mate, takes place, and next thing you know, you're just engrossed in your passion and leading from the front.
Everyone's got a backstory.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think it's really cool to hear where everyone's sort of come from and like they've cut their teeth, so to speak.
It is.
Because that sort of shapes them to the person they've got to be. Like you didn't have a license, you didn't have a ticket, and you've just gone out and gone, hey, I'm going to have a crack at this and see where it goes. And you sort of threw yourself in the deep end there, and
of course,
you know, obviously paid off.
Yeah.
And you got some stuff sorted, got back on your feet, and look at you now.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about, you know, construction and having apprentices, and you can get them so early on. You can hear their story, see where they are, and then watch them grow. And I love doing that. You know, you can get them quite early, you know, quite green without them knowing too much. Like I don't know about you, but I do not expect a first year apprentice to, you know, I expect them to put their left shoe on the left foot and their right on the right foot. But, you know, as far as, you know, it's all about listening, you know, being punctual, all those basic things, and then just looking and learning, you know, and absorbing the information. As long as they're looking, mate.
You do need to put them under your wing. Like, and when they come in, like I've had to teach some of the younger guys and girls like how to answer the phone. No, when you answer the phone, you say hello, then your name speaking, and then you know, like that's the normal way to do it. It's not like hi, you know, and just those little things there, like just improve their demeanor. And you mentioned about seeing them progress through. It's such a cool feeling when, you know, you've got them from a young age. One guy we've just had recently leave us. He was with us for 5 years, but you know, I remember the day he walked in here and sort of had his interview, and then, you know, fast forward 5 years later and he's on to the next thing. And like from how green he was to now, like, it's really cool to see. And like,
it's great watching that growth, isn't it? It really is. Yeah.
Different joys, like carpentry and being on site, like still absolutely love that, as I'm sure you do.
Oh, yeah.
But now running
whenever it happens.
Yeah, whatever. But now running business, like the different joys that we get are like, you know, from those things, or a client saying, hey, you did such a fantastic job here. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Look, I mean, any reward's a good reward. And I think that's, you know, a pretty strong message, really. You know, if we're putting messages out in this podcast, you know, rewarding and, you know, I'm not talking rewards as in bonuses, money bonuses, things like that, you know, like I'm just talking encouragement, you know.
Well, you see these young guys and girls flourish as people.
Yeah.
And learn life skills that they're going to have, you know, forever.
Yeah.
And you shape them, you know, as much as their parents have, but they're essentially in the real world, and you've got to sort of, you know, implement the discipline for them. You know, hey, you need to be at work here. If you're sick, you need to tell people. You need to go and see the doctor, things like that. I think that's, Look, I want to get into apprentices later. What I really want to talk about is what makes Hardwick Projects different from the average builder.
We've already covered the passion side of it. I think, you know, you can tell that I'm pretty passionate when I do.
Definitely.
Look, I think, clear, how to put this, clear communication is massive, from the get-go. I don't think there's enough communication in the industry. And when I'm saying communication, I'm just talking about developing those, more of an intimate relationship with your customers, making them feel, just instilling that trust in them. Like there's got to be trust, to be successful. Like they are the defining values of running a business, I think, and I've learned that over the years, like I really have learned that over the years.
Talk to me about the communication. Like what do you mean by that?
Communication as in, like pre-construction, it's a big phase of a build. That's where all the trust comes from. It's you've got to have those clear communications. So all of your processes that you're running, as within your computer system, your internal network, I suppose you'd say, making sure that you have, good systems in place there that they can monitor what's going on, but just addressing, any issues early on. If you're working with an architect and you notice something, I think it's trying to stray away from the variations during a project, making sure that you've got, every detail dialed in, and then communicating those effectively in the early stages of the project, and being honest with your prime cost items, things like that, having all that transparency, so that's what I'm talking about, communication, and just keeping people updated.
Yeah.
Not only your immediate team, like I'm keeping them updated in pre-con stages of works, for projects that we haven't even signed contracts for, all of that sort of communication, is
super important.
Super important. Yeah.
So in the initial stages, like for someone that's thinking about building or, that doesn't know the first thing, like you would say to them, you want to be talking with your builder and talking with them
Yeah.
and ask as many questions as possible.
Yeah. Look, it's extremely important for people to involve the builder early on. There's a lot of documents that get, like a lot of documents from architects that'll go out to several builders, and there's, like it can be a little bit competitive at time. I get that, people are looking for, cheap, quotes or cheap pricing, but, I think what I'm trying to say is, distilling that trust early on and showing them the value of you, why you are costing a little bit more, or why, this builder is costing, a little bit less, or,
building that trust straight away. Like you'll see this, you'll see a builder put in a quote and they're $100,000 less than you or $200,000 less than you. And in your mind, you're like, they've like purposely omitted stuff.
To me, that means fuck all though. Do you know what I mean? Like it just does. It means nothing, like it's the value of me, the value of my team.
Yeah.
What I've got to bring to the table.
Oh yeah. What I was getting at was, no, it was more along the lines of, that they've left stuff out so their price looks good.
Yeah, of course.
And they're trying to, and it's really difficult to catch on to early if you're a client or a customer. But that's where I guess the architect should guide you, right? Or
well, yeah, I mean, but you don't always have the architect's involvement. As well, like that's a difficult thing, but it's a good topic. Like to what you were just saying about people, builders keeping things exclusive or just hidden costs. Like it's getting away from all of that, getting far away from that. But back to what I was saying with the architect's involvement. Like you do get projects where you landed with the documents and the architect's not really in the picture anymore. He's done his work. What I'm liking at the moment is architects are going the extra yard. They're going to that BA stage, which, is extremely helpful, for us, as far as administration work going on and things like that. We can focus more on the actual project and the build. So, I mean, the conversation could stray pretty far, knowing you, Xavier, with BA, with building approvals.
You're throwing me up here.
But, I think that's potentially a good avenue, like for us to sign an appointment of builder form, and then, it's being looked after and you can work with the client that way. the architect's involved as well, or the draftsperson, or the building designer. I mean, generally, but draftspeople and architects, but
generally, but when there's a change needed at BA stage, it's the draftsman that has to update something, or the architect that has to update something anyway.
That's true.
So that's where you're sort of stuck in the middle there, and you're like, well, I can tell you what to do, but it's just going to go back to the architect to update. So really good point there. I think the takeaway there is get your builder in early, get him on board early, ask as many questions as possible, and pick the builder that you feel the most comfortable with.
That's right, yeah.
And that you trust the most.
That's what I'm talking about, distilling that trust, It's and that's got to go throughout the whole project. There's no point in having his sales pitch but not being able to back it up. I see that too many with suppliers. Suppliers that are just their shop front's looking fucking amazing, but they're not following through once we get into throwing purchase orders their way and working out, solutions on finishes and things like that. It's, it's all about delivery,
That's where it's really good you brought that up, actually, because I feel like that's definitely a side that people don't see that us builders deal with, the supply issues and the quality issues and monitoring that, making sure you've got materials turning up when you need them. You don't want windows there day one because they're going to sit around for months and not be needed, but you need to order them.
Yeah.
These are all really important things.
Well, the building process is complicated, and it's trying not to wrap your customers or your client up too much in all of that. That's back end. That's us, we've got to, that's our job to sort of look after all of that. But there is, it's very complicated. The building process is.
It is.
And there's.
But we like complicated.
It's challenges every day. There's a new challenge every day. We do like complicated. I mean, that's why we're in this position, right? Like we kind of thrive on intensity.
Well, I made the analogy. In an earlier.
I'm not stressed. I'm just going. It's just.
Something's wrong. Where is it? Yeah. I made the analogy of being a builder is like being the conductor in an orchestra.
Love this.
You've just got people. You're talking to 10 different people at once. You're talking with the client. You're talking with the government. You've got all this stuff happening, and you're just there, just conducting the whole situation. And it's almost like, it is a symphony.
And the conductor's always a beast too. So I'm loving how you glorify us builders.
100%. Yeah. Without us, what would happen?
But no, look, it's a great analogy. It fits perfectly. Like the way that you did, put that across. And I just thought, wow, from contractors to, to your team, to, all of your suppliers, everyone like that, it's all so collaborative, but it's a complicated process at the same time, unless you don't have your shit together.
That's right. And the systems and processes there are probably the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
Talking with the client consistently is probably priority number one. And then priority number two, you're looking at how things go together, when to get this there, when to get that there, who to speak to,
and it's all learnt over time. If you asked the Sean Hardwick 5-6 years ago about his systems and process, you'd be wondering how the fuck is he getting through these projects. Okay.
But I think that's the cool thing about construction and the industry. Like, you're always learning. Like there is never a time where I've felt like this is boring.
It's enjoyable, it's fun. And that's what, all the way from being, all the way down when you're an apprentice, it's all the same. Like, we're all in this same bubble. It's the same sort of challenges. It's the same rewards. It's the same, you know what I mean? It's that.
When you pull a project off and it goes flawlessly and the client's telling you how happy they are with it, that's a feeling that, is really special, I think. And you're like, yeah, it's worth it. Oh, love that.
It's one of the most rewarding parts of a project is handover day.
What's your personal why when it comes to building? Why are you doing this?
Look, what I've spoken about already many times in this podcast, but I think passion, if you have a passion for something, just fucking go for it, like it is, it's what's going to drive you forward, what's going to propel your growth is passion, that is my why. And I found the passion years and years ago in construction, in carpentry, that's taken me to many different levels. Of course, sitting here, but look, that's it. Yeah, I think it's
when it gets tough, you're like, I love this. Well, bring it on.
Yeah, look, there are tough moments that you think, how did I wind up in this space? But there's something, instilled in us humans that, love a grind. We love a challenge. And I think, the harder that you do grind at that, the reward is just so much greater. So, yeah.
I think inherently as builders, like we love the challenge, and we want to like succeed in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
When everyone says, "Oh, that job's really difficult," I'm staying away from that. Like that to me is like, I want to do that job.
Yeah, that's a hot topic. That's a really hot topic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not too many projects now that I look at. This is in residential, of course.
Yeah.
Extension renovations. Bring it on. Bring anything on.
Yeah.
There was. I can remember sitting, receiving a set of plans, going through the costing phases, getting acceptance on a proposal, and then sitting there looking at the screen. Well, I was more looking at the set of plans, thinking, righto, and the fuck we're going to build this thing. But at the end of the day, it's a team effort. It's you got to have that backing, you got to have that team. But yeah, it's off topic there. But yeah,
no, that's perfect.
Shit, no,
that's perfect.
Look, it's what doesn't matter what you do. From chef to butcher to accountant, it doesn't matter. If you're passionate in something, you're going to do your very best to get to the top.
And you love the challenge.
Love it.
And you just put it in your resume and go, have a look at that.
Thrive on high pressure situations, mate.
What's going well at Hardwick Projects at the moment?
Look, to be quite honest with you, everything. I'm super comfortable in my business. The team, if anything's standing out, the projects that are coming through, we're getting acceptance on some good high end residential projects with some great clients as well. That's really important, we're the right builder for them. Not only, they're the right client for us, should I say, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think teamwork. That's
your fun.
Yeah, bloody Tyler, mate. Should I answer it? Shout out to Joshy Kozak, mate. I'll get you back.
If a builder's phone's all ringing.
He's all ringing out anyway, mate. That guy. I tell you what, you got to set aside half an hour. I hope he listens to this, Joshy.
He will. I'm sure.
But yeah.
And talk to me about the projects. What kind of projects do you like doing the most?
Yeah, so I think the more complex, the better.
Yeah,
I think we're sitting right in that market of high end extension renovation work. That's where I've taken the brand. That's where I've taken Hardwick's, and that's something that I'm comfortable in, and I have been comfortable in for a long time because, growing up through my apprenticeship, we worked. I'm from the Sutherland Shire.
Yeah.
And we were working a lot in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, doing extension renovations there on some of those masonry homes, and it taught me so much. Those projects. So yeah, they were very complex. Working for reputable architects in Sydney.
High end's a different caliber.
Which I had no idea what I was doing at the time. But you're always referencing things from your past, right? And that's when they come up and you're like, okay. And then it's all about networking, speaking. I'm still in contact with my old boss, and I've got such a great network of people in the industry now, that I can call upon, when I have a query. But look, I think, the projects, are coming in hot, you could say.
Fantastic.
And just very comfortable in that space of extension renovations. So
you've been active on socials. Has that been driving people to you? And what's the motivation there?
It's a great marketing tool. Look, social media is fantastic for educating, marketing. For clients, in our pipeline. To have a look and see what we're up to. But yeah, it's a great tool, to have. It's fun too. I get my team involved, they have a bit of a laugh about it. Sometimes they cry because, we're asking for content and they're in chisel and hammer mode, mate. They're like, I don't have time to get my phone out. Yeah. And get this content. But, it's just a good way to showcase what you can do. And
you're doing that really well.
That's all a reward in itself.
I like the journey that you're telling, the Royale project.
Following along
there, you're at.
Yeah.
You put the gyprock up in the inside. You know,
Yeah, mate, Gyprock went up, completed today. So we're officially into the internals. Yeah, the exciting part. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And young Benny, is
He's running that job for you?
steering the ship out there, our 4th year, doing a great job too. You know, like he's genuinely doing a very good job. I'm so proud of him. Like he deserves, everything that's coming his way at the moment. You know, it's all fallen into place for him. So, you know, the HA Awards in Melbourne, you know, we're jumping on a plane in the morning and heading to Melbourne.
Talk to me about Benny. Like, what makes him good?
Oh, mate, he's
He just listening, wants to
just
be
got
there.
this cheeky smile,
Yeah.
you know, and he just can't not. Benny's, when he came to Hardwick's, we sat down. It was actually his brother who contacted me and said, Benny's going to be listening to this, but he's like, you got to get me brother off the couch. Benny came to us, you know, quite young, just left school. And anyway, so we had to sit down, we had a chat, and he just had a goal. His goal was to be a builder. He said to me, I want to be a builder, but I want to do my carpentry first. I understand the importance of structures. I understand the importance of fine motor skill, things like that. And I just respected that. You know, I really did. For him being up front, you know,
Head screwed on.
Yeah, screwed on. And he just dived into it. You know, like he spent his first, you know, few years really listening, absorbing and taking in all the information he needed from our other carpenters. You know, to the point now where he's in his 4th year and he's running a $1 million plus project out at Royalla, and smashing it too. You know, like the feedback I've got from not only our client, who is super happy with his performances, but you know, all of our contractors as well. He's just keeping them up to speed. He's keeping the material takeoffs coming through. We're just, you know, communicating well.
That's fantastic, mate.
It's
so good to see when
he's driven, you know, he's very driven.
Yeah.
In a, you know, but he's also like, he's got just a great demeanor, you know, like he's never loud, he's never angry. He's got a great personality, holds a good conversation, has a laugh, like has a great laugh.
Yeah,
they're the important things, you know.
Sounds like a fantastic bloke.
Great values. Yeah.
He is,
and he comes from a good family, you know. Like that was his brother, our Tyler, on
the
who called him through there. Yeah, Josh, he's a great bloke.
How is he on the banter?
Mate, banter doesn't stop.
Yeah. That's such an important part.
Oh, it is.
Of being on site.
It is.
I'd say the banter is, you know, paramount to culture.
It is. We've got our, you know, like we've got individual chats, you know, we've got our social media chats. We've got our Hardwick Chippies, you know, we've got one of the WhatsApp chats, Hardwick Chippies, and that's just for all the, you know, the fuckery, I'll call it. You know, like I don't want to see anything real serious on that chat. You know, I want to know what's going on the weekend. Who bloody...
Yeah.
You know, went tits up there and at work, you know, like just a bit of banter, and there's always good stuff coming through from there from Benny. So
I love to hear that.
Yeah. But,
mate, we're talking about business here and craft and projects, industry. I've got here business and leadership. I want to skip down to business and leadership because you've been talking about all these apprentices that are doing really well underneath you. And, you know, you obviously know what you're doing. What's your leadership style and how has it evolved?
Well, as I was just saying, you know, Benny's got quite a calm demeanor about how he operates. And I feel like that comes off the back of myself, you know, because I am quite calm. I rarely raise my voice. And I think that approach in business is key. You know, I had the opposite from a fella tell me many years ago when I was, you know, starting out in business and things were evolving, and you know, like, and it was all about, you know, the nous and being the top dog and you know, keeping your shoulders high and you know, just all that assertiveness, and really I learned that it wasn't necessary. You know, it's
Generally, people are hard on themselves, you know, as it is, and I think if you're coming over the top with that,
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm much harder on myself than I am on my team, that's for sure. But yeah, I think just having that calm, relaxed approach, you know, just showing up every day. You know, if you're into it early, you know, you're getting up early, you've got everything in place, you've put all of your personal goals and all your personal development in place. That just sets you up for for not only success, but just, for that to resonate to your team as well. If you're calm, they're calm, and I've created a pretty good environment at Hardwick's, with
You definitely have.
with that approach, so, and I'm only just seeing it now, like I've only seen it in the last couple of years,
Well, if you really think about it, when you've got an environment where, there's negativity thereby, if I stuff this up, I'm going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
That's not a work environment that's conducive to positive outcomes. You're worried about doing stuff. So creativity is gone there. People putting their hand up and saying, hey, we can do this better. That's gone, and I feel like what you're saying is the way you're leading is, through, first and foremost example, you go to the gym often, you're up early, you're on site, and you probably listen to these young guys and girls really well.
100%.
You want to hear what they've got to say, what you like by the sounds of
learn from them too. I learn from them as much as they learn from me, and I'm always all ears, I love a new idea. I love, consulting the team, if we've got a challenge or we need to look at something from another perspective. I think that's more it, if I'm looking at it from one perspective, and quite often than not, our perspective is in front of our eyes because we're, spending a lot of time, looking at a fucking computer screen, and the perspective, on site, can be so much different. So, and that's where, you need to have, a good, knowledgeable, crew, to be able to, that you're able to sort of work with. And I'm always, all ears, I love a new idea from one of the team and I'm like, bang, run with it. Let's go. That's a solid idea.
Me too.
And that happens, quite often, it's, that's what really gets me humming, Yeah. That's what gets my ass buzzing, mate.
How do you keep quality high without overcomplicating things?
Oh, I'm always overcomplicating things. Look, the less is more approach. Not so much I've started to look at that a lot more. I've started to understand that a lot more. And I think the environment that you're in as well, really accommodates that, in Canberra. We got like a great climate in here. It's very seasonal. Things are changing all the time. It's finding those, good architects and draftspeople, that can simplify design, and
make it easier to build
and make it a little bit easier to build, perhaps. Yeah.
You're on site, and you do high quality stuff, and you see something. Well, you probably wouldn't see it often, but you see something that's not up to scratch. Are the guys calling that out, or you?
Yeah. Oh, look, they certainly are. Yeah, no doubt about it. Like if they're, it's rare for them to, I won't say to make mistakes. That's not the right way of putting it, but it's rare. No, it's rare. It's rare for them to do, some work that isn't quality, it's, but in saying that, they'll always point out things that, if we get a contractor not doing, some quality work or something like that, we're always communicating, we're always chatting, we have a good brief, our two supervisors, Ben and Will, we're always having a good brief at the end of the day, good chat, or coming through an email or something like that.
Mate,
but,
you know what that's about? That's about culture.
It is.
So you built there.
Mate, it's developing good culture, And back to this, that question, it's culture, that is one thing that, is so great at Hardwick's, at the moment, I'm super proud. I'm proud of myself as well for creating these opportunities for these people and bringing them into my circle.
Well, it sounds like you found the right people and you've
got to pick your battle. I won't say pick your battles, but
you've molded them into, these operators.
I don't go looking for people. I let people come to me, whether it be through a contact, whether it would be, it's, generally word of mouth, I think that's where all of the best creations are made, through word of mouth, through, whether it be projects, whether it be, suppliers, contractors, and then your team as well, your immediate team,
well, they're already vetted coming through someone else.
Yeah. So, similarly to, our recent, acquisition of, Darcy, you know, she reached out to us, you know, and she was like a pocket rocket, you know. You could see the passion in her when I brought her in for an interview, and you know, yeah. So it's all about, you know, I just want people to sort of come to me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Well, let's talk about your business, right? Again, more. Are you building for scale or are you building for reputation? I think I know the answer.
Reputation, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking at selling a business.
Where Sean Hardwick and
I think
Hardwick Projects.
all the rewards come through reputation.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that's where you're going to be high on life. I mean, we're not here for a long time, and I think, you know, trying to scale a business to, you know, a point that, that's actually going to burn your passion out. You know, that's definitely not me, you know. I think it's quite hard in construction because it is one of those creative, creative sort of industries.
Yeah.
Or it's not a profession, but you know what I'm saying. It's
It's
hard not to have that passion. There are plenty, you know, you're going to be in that project home environment, I'm sure, you know, where they're just glorified administrators looking to scale a business. But they don't have the involvement. They don't have the passion.
Yeah.
That's where, you know, the business will become unstuck and people aren't happy, and, you know, you get all of those things sort of coming into play. So definitely reputation, you know.
How do you stay focused and avoid burnout, Sean? You got a little one. You're juggling that.
I was leaning towards family, you know, certainly, you know, that is my biggest driver, you know. Still kicking myself that I've got a 4-month-old child, you know, who is growing daily. You know, we spend a lot of time away from home. I'm out the door very early in the morning and you know, home late at night. Well, not late at night, but, you know, late of an afternoon. And she seems to change every bloody day, mate. I mean, you know, you've got
I do, yeah.
You've got Sarah's too.
Yeah, that first smile, you've got the first rollover, you've got all of
it's a killer.
The teeth are coming, you know.
It's a killer, you know. I'm just so proud of Isabel, proud of my partner. She, and she, you know, she's so on board, you know, so yeah.
It's good to have that support system at home.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your, you know, my wife, Georgia, like, she really supports me. She's like, just go, just get out there, you know.
Yep.
You know, don't worry, I've got it sorted. You know, I look back and here's one of my sons jumping off the lounge and, you know, right. The other one's screaming because he's hungry. And she's like, you know, you need to be outside.
Just handling it. Yeah. I mean, we had an incident yesterday and I could just tell that Isabel was having a bit of a hard day. And you know, like, I'm pretty regimented in my day. I like to clock off, you know, still do the 3:30 thing, you know, like, and then she just sent me a message, what time are you coming home? And I could just tell, you know, so I smashed this workout out and got home, you know, because I was actually going to forego the workout, but she is very supportive of that, you know, like she said, you know, like, no, do your bloody workout, but I'm having a day. But yeah, so
that's fantastic. So systems for you and just staying on the, you know, if you built sort of what's the word I'm trying to say? You built a routine for yourself and you just stick to that, and then you know, spend time with your family and you know, recharge as much as you can so you can come and fight the day, the next one.
Structures, so important, you know, in your life, in your day, like every day, you know, you got to set yourself up for success every day, you know, and you got to have, you know, from the time that you wake up, you got to have, you know, it can be quite robotic. I won't call it monotonous because that's just your program, you know, that you're running, and you're comfortable with that program. But, you know, having that schedule set, what you're doing throughout the day, scheduling is a big thing as well. You know, I promote that as much as possible.
How do you avoid burnout? Like we do a lot through the day.
Yeah. So what
are your strategies?
I was getting to a point of, you know, like your daily structure, you know, your work environment, your focus, your switch on, you know what's coming up. You've got your calendar set, everything like that. Follow through with your routine. Meals are very important, you know, but something I've been implementing is trying to separate work and home, you know, like trying to balance that out. I've actually started leaving my laptop at work, you know, leaving it at the office, just collapsing it, heading home. Because I think it's, you know, like you can get pretty caught up in your own business.
Definitely.
And it's important to not just separate yourself from it, because you're going to get home and you're going to talk shit about the day, right? You're going to talk about business to your partner. And that's fine. But I think, sort of we can get a little bit caught up. You'll see an email come through or you want to respond. And I think what I've learned, just in recent times, and I think, since, Minnie's come on board as well, I've just realized the more importance of me being at home and being present, for Isabel and Minnie.
It's hard to do when you're so passionate about it. Like, as you said, like I don't check my phone as soon as I get home, I do not check my emails because I know
you don't.
Yeah.
I'm still
like,
checking my people.
I get so hyped up and I'm like, I've got to jump on that. I've got to jump on this.
And that's it. Yeah. Not being so reactive, and I think definitely a step for me. My next step might be not checking emails. I mean, just turning those notifications off altogether. But you can just be very reactive, when you're trying to, when you're still involving yourself in your business, when really you should be present with your family.
With your family.
So,
I think it's
weekends too, weekends, fucking scrap.
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, knock off. It's it's okay, to be at home
you need
on your Saturday and your Sunday.
You need that.
Have your weekend, have your time to refresh, and I encourage that to my team as well. We do not work Saturday. We do not work weekends. There will be the odd occasion where, I'm talking odd, it'll come to the end of the year potentially when we're trying to crunch out handovers before Christmas, which I've really tried to just
get rid of
as well. But yeah, I encourage that to my team as well. Have your weekend, knock off on your Friday, go to the pub, get absolutely, walk-eyed if you want on your Friday.
Get really happy.
Get really happy. But I think that's really important to set yourself up for the next week. That's all part of your structure. You know what I mean?
I find since I've stopped checking emails at home, I'm more refreshed and I've got that killer instinct or really want to, get going and get into it for the day.
Yeah.
That for me has been really important. And with my kids, I want to be there with them. I don't want to be thinking about work stuff.
Yeah.
But I think inherently as builders, we just love it. You want to be on top of it all the time.
It's 24/7.
It is.
It would be 24/7. If you wanted to make it 24/7, it 100% could be 24/7.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and that's what we thrive on as well. We're action men. We want things to happen, and it's what's coming in next, and fuck this happened. I'm going to get back to that person. It's trying to recognize that no, it's actually not that important.
Yeah.
It can wait a few hours. Waiting. Being patient is sometimes difficult thing to be, but just understanding that things can wait, in business.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think,
and you probably make better calculated decisions when you do wait and you actually think about it.
Yeah.
Instead of being so reactive. I mean, you've got those people in your life, I'm sure, whether they're clients or contractors or just whoever is in your network, and they're super reactive people. And it's you're just misspelling shit. It doesn't even make sense because I sent you an email and I got something back in 30 seconds. It's take a breath.
Yeah.
Think about it. So, I'm trying to take that on board myself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Mate, I hope,
we go on some tangents, you and I talking.
Mate. Yeah,
this could be all-time world record 2 hour, 3 hour.
We actually, we haven't actually known each other that long, Xavier, but I feel we've connected pretty well. And, I'm hoping that this isn't,
Mate, I want you on as a regular guest because I like. When I first met you, I felt like we just instantly clicked because we're on the same wavelength. We had the same sort of outlook. On the way you operate your business, no working Saturdays. I'm the same.
Yep.
I think that you being calm and cool and collected, and the way that you teach your apprentices, we're on the same sort of level there.
Yeah.
In terms of, you're right. As soon as you start to raise your voice, or as soon as you start to, lose control, I would call it, then that shows weakness, and that's not leadership.
Yeah,
that's the opposite of being a leader. That's
100%. Yes.
So yeah, but it is hard, and it's almost like a muscle that you need to continuously work on.
Yep.
And it's not something you'll probably do it subconsciously now. Be cool, calm, and collected, and look, there's no problem that I cannot overcome.
Yep.
But it is something you work on. I think it's a muscle that
doesn't come overnight.
No, it doesn't.
Neither do muscles.
No, they don't. They don't.
How's your working out being a
Terrible, man. Terrible. I'm still bulking. I've been bulking for 5 years.
on the 12-month bulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
No, that's coming. That's coming.
Okay.
That's coming.
Okay, maybe next podcast we could just talk about exercise execution and meal planning.
Yeah, meal planning. Yeah,
and like the next podcast after that is results.
Yeah, that's right. I just
up 10%. Body fat. Xavier just come in charge. Yeah.
I just get so wrapped up in things, and like like the podcast, for example. Like I'm just like in my spare time now, I'm watching YouTube videos on podcasting.
It's all about what you want to do, though. If you want to create that space for yourself, this is an important aspect of life. If you want to create that space for yourself, you'll make it happen.
That's exactly right.
There's no point dwelling on it, procrastinating. It's if you really want it, yeah. Well, if you really want to create that space for yourself.
My mates from school will be saying, listen to Sean, we've been telling you that for years, you idiot. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get back to it. I want to talk about how we can inspire more people to look at going to apprenticeships, because we need more apprentices. At the moment, there's a trade shortage out there. There's not enough young guys and girls going to apprenticeships. And I don't know, I can't think of why they're not looking at it. And it's not here. You always hear the old guy, they don't make them, they're not like they used to be. And the new generation's soft. I don't think that's right. I think that they're just misunderstood. The same as your generation when you went through, the same as my generation, all of that stuff. So my question to you, Sean, is, and let's talk about this in high detail. How can we attract more young people to trades?
Look, I mean, it all starts what you just mentioned before, like that stigma of, they're all too soft and things like that. Well, they're looking up to somebody, if that's how they are, then, it's all coming from us adults. Right?
Yep.
So I think it's, education in schools. I think, that there could be just try and target trades. Schools can sort of target. They do have like the ASBA systems in place, things like that, but maybe lay off the university degrees so much. I mean, there's so much, for as far as expectation goes, for a student to go through to year 12, do a university degree, and that's what success is.
My parents were expecting me to do that, and I think I broke my dad's heart when I was like, "No, I'm going to go and be a tradie." And he was like, "I've just paid for school for this many years at this school," and I was like, "Look, don't worry, I got it all handled. Yeah. It'll be okay."
Yeah.
And
so, look, I mean, it starts at schools and parents as well. Parents having a better idea of what construction is, where it can take you in life, like developing a fine motor skill, being able to work with your hands. You develop so many other skills through your journey, through your journey of doing an apprenticeship. You're developing so many life skills.
Definitely.
And I think that, needs to be try and educate it a little bit more.
How do we support more young people coming in though? Like
Look, I'm going to say government incentives. I really don't think that there's enough, and not so much government incentives for our apprentices, but for their mentors, for their teachers as well. It takes it's especially in the early years, like that. It takes a lot of, I won't say a lot of work, but you've got to be involved and you've got to be very attentive to their education, to their learning, and make sure that they're developing right. And that takes, that takes work. So, I guess I'm trying to say, and I think for the apprentice as well, at Hardwick's, we're always paying above award wage, trying to incentivize as much as possible through a decent wage.
Yeah, we say we pay on performance. Yep. You're good, you're good.
Yep. And it's sort of, sitting down and discussing with them, what you're worth, and what, I think, so.
Well, I feel like apprentices are sort of a little bit behind the eight ball as well in terms of like if you basic toolkit, 10 grand.
Yeah.
Like tools are expensive.
Yeah. What was when you were an apprentice? I can remember what my incentive was. It was $800 toolkit.
I think, we had.
I still remember the toolkit.
We got $1,800 every year, I think it was, which just went straight to tools for me. Every bit of money that I had was buying tools.
Yeah. That was in Canberra?
That was in Canberra, yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
You guys got a lot better than us. We got an $800 voucher at the start of our apprenticeship, and that was it. Good on earth.
I think,
Get to your fourth year.
yeah, it was a little bit different back then. My week's pay though, I think it was on $7 an hour. And
Yeah.
$430, I remember, my first year.
Yeah.
And that was above award. I think that the award at the time was like 320. So I was just, I was wrapped.
Yeah.
I think where we were just talking, what we were just talking about was, getting young people into trades and
Incentivizing and things like that.
You mentioned schools. I think schools need to start pushing people to look at trades. I think that there needs to be a different thought about going into a trade. Like you mentioned, your parents were wrapped when you got your certificate. So am mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my avenue as well. Because I think school isn't for everyone.
It's not.
And I think it's pushed on a lot of young kids a lot more than what it should be. There's alternatives out there. There's options, and a trade, like an apprenticeship is the avenue.
It definitely is. Well, it's such a good foundation,
and you can head straight into work. Like, you're going to get paid.
Exactly.
You get paid to learn. Let's look at that.
Yeah. That was my attraction to it. I just wanted to make money. I was like, I've had enough of people telling me what to do and how to do it. Like, I don't want to go to uni. I want to go and learn on the tools. I want to be with, I want to be with the boys on the site,
That's right. Of course. Yeah.
And
$7 an hour, and you can buy a movie ticket.
Absolutely loves it
after your work.
Yeah.
But
go to the lighthouse and buy some cheap drinks on a Thursday and then roll into work.
Yep.
And hey, what were you doing last night? I was in bed by 8.
But yeah, look, I think, that's quite a good point to raise, as far as, stepping into your work life and getting paid, to learn, that's what more incentive do you need, than that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's fun.
Super fun. Yeah. We're born to be outside.
Absolutely.
We really are.
What would you think? What would you say to someone thinking about doing a trade?
Look, I mean, if you have, if you have that idea, if the idea's crossed you, go for it. I think, listening to any noises outside, like, if that's what you really think that you should be doing, if you're progressing well at school in those areas of industrial, whatever it'll be, that hands-on work, and then you think you have a talent for it, escape and get out early.
Yeah.
And head into the building industry, because we need you. We need those people. We need those people that are passionate and, want to do that. So
yeah, I'd say the same. I'd say give it a go. Like, if you're not sure, I guarantee you after a week on site, you will be sure or not, or,
exactly.
you'll be sure.
And there's options, like if you're, like whatever trade you think you're drawn to, whatever you think that you'd be good at, it's all trial and error. If you want to be an electrician, and it doesn't work out, like, you can move over to another trade, same goes for each individual trade.
And if you hit up the right person and say, look, I just want to come for a week, check it out, don't have to pay me. I just want to see how it goes. Like, can I come on site and check it out? Like, you could say that to an electrician, carpenter, plumber,
Tyler, whoever. Like, there's many, like some of our wet trades too, like they're on their way out. We need more educated people in those fields.
Well, the average age of a bricklayer is 58.
Yeah. Is that real?
58.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. From, the renderers, tilers, concreters, it's, they're all great skills to have. And I think, having multiple trades as well, like you can do, like plastering, like that's an art form in itself. It's extremely satisfying too. Like I really enjoy plastering, the internal linings, and setting, like myself, I enjoy setting, and, I think, there's many avenues, to explore early on, so I think, whether through the education system, whether there's more opportunities for work experience, reach out to a builder, if I had a teacher that reached out to me and said, look, I've got this kid not doing so great at school, thinking about, getting him into the construction industry. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Have you got any options for me? I could pluck out more fingers than on my hand of tradesmen that would be willing to take them on, just for a couple of days under my supervision, of course. And they can get a touch and a feel for whatever it would be. I think that, like something along those lines of an avenue for a program at school. And this is specifically what they do.
That's how we got one of our really good apprentices, Zach. His teacher at school said, "Hey, can you give this guy a go?" And we're like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yep.
And
so that was an advisor?
Yeah, he was, what was he at school? He might have been, I'm not sure actually, I'd have to look at the email, but he said, "Hey, we've got these two young guys that want to have a go," and said, "Yep. We'll give him a go," and one worked out and one didn't because he broke his leg. But yeah, Zach's been phenomenal. Like he's just come in to a duck to water, and exactly what you said. Like school just wasn't for him. Whether he just had a negative mindset about school or whatever it was.
I think school's for 65% of all students.
Yeah,
to really just better influence from it's all influence from.
It is
parents and things like that, we just got to get over this hump of there is lots of skill to be learnt from a trade, and knowledge as well. You need to have your smarts about you.
I would say about the construction industry, the more you put in, the more you will get out. Like plain and simply,
100%.
If you want it, you will get it.
Of course, definitely, yeah, and fucking go and get it.
Absolutely,
Yeah. If that's what you feel that you want to do, do it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Quick fire round. Here we go. Tool you can't live without.
Ben Kozak.
Ben Kozak.
He's a tool.
Biggest myth or...
let's go back to a tool.
Yeah. Okay.
Or is this quick?
No. You're right. Tool you can't live without.
Say nail bag.
Nail bag. Yep.
So a tool belt.
Perfect.
Or a pencil. Let's go. Let's go even greater than that. Just a sharp pencil.
So mine would be a radio. I need a radio. Give me a radio. I'm good to go. I'll work until the cows come home.
Okay.
Biggest myth or misconception about construction.
Going back to our apprentices, that it's not, like that it is a, we're going to have to do this question again. I need to explore the,
yeah, that's fine. Check your notes. If you need get them in there.
Yeah.
For those listening at home, I sent out a little framework.
It's just manual labour and doesn't require much skill or knowledge. Yeah.
Go. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Biggest myth or misconception about the construction industry?
Biggest misconception would be that it's all manual labour and you don't really need much skill or knowledge.
100%.
Yes.
You got to have a brain inside your head.
Big time.
You got to want to be there. Definitely. If you could fix one thing in the industry overnight, what would it be?
The price of gyprock.
Really?
That shit's going week on week.
Really?
Oh, mate. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't see it too much here at ACT Tech.
We don't, no.
Yeah, there's not much gyprock that goes into landscaping.
Not at all.
But I'll tell you what. Yeah, if I see another one of those emails come through from DPR.
Well, see, we do see a lot of steel going up. That's what we get a lot of.
Yeah. Timber's come down though.
Timber has come down, yeah. Well, they've got absolutely stacks of it from COVID. They've got,
there's piles of it.
Yeah. They're ready to go for all these million houses we've got to build.
How many?
Million.
Is that?
It was 1.2 million. I don't know. It's changing all the time. Best advice you've ever received, Sean?
Choose your network. More choose your friends.
Choose your friends.
Yeah. That's one that, that was from my father. Mm-hmm. And he told me that when I would have been 15 years old, back with bathroom renovations when I was doing that sort of thing. And I was hanging out with the wrong people and not interested in what I was doing. And that has stuck with me for the rest of my life.
What is it?
Believe it or not.
There's a saying about that. You are the derivative of the people, the 5 people that you hang around with the most or something. Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
True, mate. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self on day one entering the construction industry?
What would I tell myself on day one? Probably get up a little bit earlier, because those hours of the morning are just, you set yourself up for success. If you're getting up early and you're making sure that you've got enough time before you head into battle,
Perfect.
That's a good one, I think, because it's quite true, you know. Like,
yeah. Early bird gets a worm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Good in that morning bit as well. Like everything's calm, everything's settled. You know, you get a bit of time to yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, those hours are crucial part of the day, you know. But you going back to it, you know, like, and why I do say that, you know, like I was that kid. Remember, I said I didn't have my license, so my mother was driving me to either A, the train station, or B, you know, to get the lift to work.
Yeah.
You know, if I was meeting, you know, somebody at 6 o'clock, you know, I'd still be in bed at 10 to 6.
Yeah.
You know, nothing prepared the night earlier.
They're the young guys, you know.
Yeah.
We've all made mistakes. Look at us now.
Yeah.
What keeps you grounded outside of work?
Definitely my family. Yeah. Isabel. 100%. Yeah. Yep. Minnie, you know, like she doesn't have so much input. She's a 4-month-old baby, but you know.
They do have a little bit of input. They keep you up all night. You are going to be tired at work tomorrow. Who deserves a shout out in the industry, mate? Who's doing well? Who do you want to highlight?
Oh, I want to say you, mate, but you know, like it's just a bit boastful, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Not me.
But, no, I would have to shout out to my team, mate, my immediate team, my team of carpenters, my team of office management as well. Every single one of them, they show up every single day and they put in 100%. And I know that they do. And I'm extremely proud of them, and I'm just very, very grateful for them. You know, we're a good family. You know, we've become such a strong unit. Yeah, definitely big shout out to every single one of them.
You should be, mate. You should be really proud of that. You should be really proud of what you've created.
Yeah,
and you should be really proud of where you've come from. And I'm sure that every one of your team members would be, if they were in that seat, would be telling me how good of a bloke you are, how good an operator you are.
I'm blushing.
You know?
No, but yeah, look, I'm proud of myself, like I said before. You know, like I really am. You know.
Well, where did all this come from? Like, I know we're coming towards the end now of the podcast, but like, where did it all come from? Did you have a light bulb moment, or what was it? Or was it just, hey, this is the kind of person I want to be, and I'm going to be that person?
It's just progressed. And going back to what I said earlier about choosing your network, you know, that was a constant reminder for me. Like it really was. And it didn't click until, you know, I started to grow up and I formed, you know, my trade, and I started doing things for myself. And then I needed people. I needed to pull people into my circle to get things done. And that's where, you know, that network really starts, and you draw people in, and then maybe they're not so good. They're not bettering me, you know? So I think, you know, now I've got a really good network, of friends and family. And yeah, like it's just very encouraging for me. So that's how I am.
Who else should I get on the podcast?
Look,
who are you going to shout out?
I've got a list. I mean, as we were talking before, I'd like to see a bit more collaboration, you know, like with, as you would have seen, we do, at Hardwick's, we do Hardwick catch-ups.
Yeah.
So we involve our customers, whether it's, mid-construction, post-construction. We got one happening on Monday, for works just completed in Griffith with our lovely, clients there. Really looking forward to that. And we're sitting down with our designer as well. So we're sitting down with Meg Campbell from Neon White. She's going to jump in on the Hardwick catch up. It's just like a mini podcast, you know, we're running a little series. Episode 3, this one will be
fantastic. Is that on YouTube or on your Facebook?
No. We just put it onto our Facebook and our Instagram. Yeah. We're not,
that's Hardwick Projects for anyone listening at home.
Hardwick Projects. Yeah. That's where you can find us. Yeah. But yeah, so, I think, you know, yeah, fantastic. It'd be great to see, a little bit more of that here, at Xavier Builds, you know.
Get a few different people in.
Love to be regular. I can draw many people in my circle. I've already had a chat to quite a few people. Meg from Neon White is one of them.
Yeah.
I was chatting to her today and I said, would you be interested in podcasts? So, she's a fantastic building designer.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've definitely got a few others, in store that we can chat about.
Fantastic. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Now, people are listening to this podcast and they're going to go, I love Sean. I want him to build my next renovation, new home. Mm-hmm. Where can they get in touch with you, Sean?
Look, I mean, my number's printed in a lot of places, I do like to receive a phone call. We don't receive them so much anymore, but a phone call is always very well received.
Have you website?
Website, yeah, hardwickprojects.com.au. And we got a type form page on there, very simple inquiry page. Fill that out. We respond within 24 hours, and happy to take on any new customers. Yeah,
Awesome.
yep, for sure, mate.
Well, just wrapping this up. Favorite quote or life motto to end on? Give me one. What do you got?
Favorite quote?
What's your favorite quote?
We have a quote at Hardwick Projects, and that came from my first apprentice, James, and that stuck through. And it's no easy jobs and no quiet days.
Love it.
And I think, so we say if there's a bit of a challenge or something at the end of a day, we said, I was talking to Will, our carpenter, yesterday, and he had a bit of a hard day. And I just wrapped up the conversation. It was, mate, Hardwick Projects, no easy jobs, no quiet days. It's like, copy that.
Mate, that's a perfect way to end.
Yeah. Yeah,
mate, I really appreciate your time.
I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you too, mate.
Thank you for coming in.
Really do.
I would say this is part one of about a part of 100.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to keep talking.
Bring it on. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
I'll even try and bring a little bit of my, bring the team as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether they be keen to get involved.
Let's do it, mate.
Benny Kozak loves getting in front of the camera now.
He sounds like a character, this bloke.
Oh, for
I'm excited.
Yeah. No, appreciate it. Thanks, mate.
Done.